Right. English. All right, all right. Hello, everyone. I hope everyone is having a wonderful evening. Welcome to the Graduate Student Career Expo panel. Our theme will be Life After Graduate School. My name is Essence Wilson. My colleague as well, Tristan McBell, who we'll talk about in just a second. Will be moderating this panel. I am a fourth-year doctoral candidate in communications at Annenberg, and I'll lead this off to Tristan next.
Cool. So thank you, Essence. So I'm Tristan. I'm a fifth year chemical engineering PhD candidate. And so I also help with moderating everything. And so at this point, I'd like to introduce all of our panelists. Would each of you like to quickly introduce yourselves? Jennifer, how about you go ahead, go first.
I can start. So Jennifer Severa, I got my master's in public administration when it was still the School of Policy Planning and Development. And I work at USC on the health sciences campus, and I've been there for about 25 years in academic medicine.
Allison?
Hi, I'm Allison Oraqua. I have a PhD in neuroscience from USC, and I also have an MBA from USC, and I work at USC on the health sciences campus for a Clinical and Translational Science Institute.
Love the children support.
Terrell?
I hope to become a super Trojan like these folks one day. My name is Terrell Green. I graduated from a recently new program at Annenberg, the Digital Media Management program. I got a Master of Science. I think my class is like the third graduating class, so it's pretty cool. I work as a project manager for a digital marketing and advertising company, totally remote.
And last but not least, Sayar.
My name is I 2012 MBA, also have a master's in software engineering, not from USC, MBA is from USC. I work at a tech company as a senior director of product, and also I work with startups and a bunch of other kind of organization as consultant.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing all that wonderful information. Let's get started. I know you mentally discussed what you got your master's in and PhDs in, but we were wondering if you can go a little bit more in depth with that. So our question to you is, can you describe more, I would say, what you do and which master's program that you did?
Who do you want to start? Me, since I'm talking.
Go ahead.
So I didn't go right into the master's program. So I was out for a long time. And it's because I didn't know specifically what I wanted to get my master's in. And I feel like when I went through the program, the classes were more interesting for those people that actually were out in the real world to provide feedback, because, undergrad is policy, and then master's program, I think, is policy in action, and so forth. So I was going to go MBA route, but then it seemed too confined for me. I like a lot of different things. So I went for master's in public administration, which is, government in action. So I got a potpourri of a lot of different things, from economics to finance to public and private partnerships and so forth. And so I did that while working in the Department of Medicine of USC. And I just took one class per semester, so I didn't have any major debt. I had tuition assistance, so that was helpful. But I found that taking the master's program and the classes kind of helped me enlighten me a little bit more in the work that I did. Like, oh, this is the name of what I'm doing in terms of the spreadsheets and so forth, what I'm doing. And you know, and you work in academia, it's helpful also to have that master's degree, because I think, especially because I was a lot younger than a lot of people, so it helped in that regard. But I don't know if you want me to go on any further. I'll let my other colleagues to go describe why they got into their master's programs or PhDs.
We'll continue with the same order. I'll go next. So my PhD was in basic neuroscience. I studied networks in the brain associated with reading and dyslexia. I graduated in 2009, and then I got a job in the US Department of Education, their science office, where I really loved the idea of applied sciences, using research findings to actually influence and improve the way that classrooms are conducted and the way that kids learn. And that was in DC, and I wanted to come back to California, so I got a job back at USC, doing a different type of applied science, medical and clinical research and community health science, but on the administrative end. And I really loved the broad exposure to lots of different types of research. We support all kinds of health-related research across USC and Children's Hospital LA. And about 8 years into my role at the CTSI, my husband had just finished the executive MBA at USC. He's also a double Trojan, and he found it very valuable for the networking and just the broad exposure to the potpourri of types of courses. With the executive MBA, unlike the MBA, you don't specialize. Every student who is usually mid-career gets to take the same courses, basically overviews of all types of business specialties, from leadership to finance, to HR to operations. And the point of that is to be able to hold your own in a boardroom and to understand the basics in every corner of modern business. And with that degree, it was helpful for me to see into the modern economic workforce and the functioning of the money making the world go round. And basically in my own job, it helped a lot with understanding negotiation and understanding different perspectives and the larger picture, and helping my leadership manage the company, which is not what it exactly is because it's not for profit. But it was very valuable, and I got a promotion afterward, and I graduated 2 years ago now.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Yeah, I had an interesting journey. I finished undergrad in 2012, and my degree was actually in theater performance. And I was on a completely different coast. I was in New York. And so surprise, surprise, I'm not a Broadway star, but I went on to work in theater education and the nonprofit route for about 12 years. And I just felt that I had reached, I felt like in the nonprofit area, I had reached my max out, where I wasn't going to be able to be compensated for my skills in the particular sector I was in, arts education. And I found this digital media program, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. Digital media is so much of our life now. But the cool part about it, once I was in the program, I found the management part, the digital media management. We really were learning leadership skills that I then was able to, my present job is like my first for-profit company that I've worked for in my career. But I had to actually convince them that my experience as a program manager was the same as a project manager. They were like, well, you've worked in nonprofit for so long, but it was getting that education in my digital media management classes that I had the language to actually say to these people, no, I've been doing this work. It's just been called a different thing because it's been a different sector. And I had the actual, because of a lot of homework assignments, I had the actual things to show them, no, I have been doing this work. Additionally, just the network. I'm not from California or Los Angeles, so it was Definitely, I had just lived here 3 years when I found the program, and it was definitely an instant network, and I felt a sense of belonging as soon as I started classes. So yeah, I love USC and what it has offered me. So
Like for me, my first of all, I want to apologize for the lighting. I'm actually in London, and it's actually well past midnight, so I'm in Airbnb. Not a great position for a late night meeting. But so my undergrad I'm originally from Iran. My undergrad was there in software engineering. Immediately after I did the master's, and for 2-3 years, I was doing basically programming job, which some product project manager on the site. Basically, was not very official, but I was kind of a lead software engineer on the project. So at that point, continuing my education would have been PhD in engineering or MBA. And I thought that I'm not really a PhD kind of person. I'm not a real researcher. I kind of want a more hands-on work kind of thing. So came to USC for MBA. As the big picture, the goal was to stay in technology. While keeping the MBA general, I focus mostly on entrepreneurship and marketing, which is more techie part of things. And yeah, and I think after that, it kind of translated to being in technology world still and focus on the internet businesses, really.
Wow, you all have very different backgrounds from one another. So this will actually be very helpful as we're like going through these questions. We can get like a good taste of a little bit of everything. So I guess going off of that, so obviously you're all in like completely different sectors and have studied different things. So, but how did you prepare yourself while in graduate school to get a job offer like post graduate school? Like, how did you prepare yourself while still here?
Well, I'll start. I already had a job, so that was a lot easier for me. But when I was, I thought after undergrad, by the time I finished undergrad, I'd know exactly what I wanted to do with my life, but I didn't. I mean, I think it's a gift to know exactly what you want to do, especially, I work in medicine. I'm, kind of chief financial officer, chief administrative officer of one of the 10 divisions in the Department of Medicine. And, I I think I'm pretty good at that, but I wasn't sure, what I wanted to do after undergrad. So that's why I kind of did a lot of internships to kind of get I did an undergrad in political science. So did an internship at the United Nations in New York City and did a lot of different things to kind of figure out what I wanted to do. When I work with doctors, like, I was asked like, what made you want to get into this? Because it's, 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of medical school, 3 years of residency. And then if you want to specialize, it's even more after that. So it's like it's like my former mentor, who passed away about 6 years ago, he knew he wanted to be a doctor when he was like 6. And you usually hear that, like, but he literally did continue on. And so that's a gift. So, so I was kind of fortunate to kind of land in a job at USC. And then I've kind of worked my way up in the same department. So I didn't have to find something after graduate school. So I probably am not the best to answer that, but it was definitely enhancing in the position that I'm in. So I will hand it off to Allison.
I would say that when I was in my PhD program, which was full-time and I did not yet have a job, I took advantage of my talking to my professors and my mentor, my PhD advisor. He gave me a lot of advice about what the work-life balance might look like, what the options were afterward. I attended a lot of activities like this, panel meetings where I could hear from folks out in the industry. I did internships where, for example, I went and worked at the California Science Center a couple days, afternoons a week, just to see what that kind of life was like on that end of science. And I would say the information interviews, if you have a chance, reach out to your Trojan network, look on LinkedIn, find somebody whose job is really exciting to you, and reach out and just ask if you could borrow a few minutes of their time. People generally like to talk about themselves, and I still, to this day, am doing information interviews as I continue to think about what types of careers I'd be interested in. So don't be shy. I encourage you to reach out and ask.
Yes, I'm gonna reiterate some things. I think I did an internship at the Annenberg agency, and that actually helped me find a mentor and a very good job reference, which was so beneficial in switching careers. And I also turned all of my homework assignments into my portfolio. So a lot of it worked, you know. So please use your, because I said if anyone ever asked me to do this much amount of work again, it better be for like $1 million, you know. Like, so this is a solid portfolio. I'm going to turn it into one. And I say invest in USC merchandise and wear it places. It will start conversations. Okay.
A lot of great point has been made. I think networking, informational interviews, those things are great. I think one of the things that's a couple of things I did. One was the idea of like exploring and figuring out what do you want to do. A lot of internship is being pointed, like most people want to do the fancy names, the big companies. And I think another way to do this would be kind of like going after something smaller, but maybe multiple of them, because it's easier to get them. It's easier to kind of like, they might not even pay you because it might be like a small company of like 6 people, but you actually get to do real work. Whereas like if you get something at Disney, you're probably going to do something very small. You don't see the big picture. So that's kind of like getting more hands-on experience. And also I think figuring out what you want to do and try to kind of create your story towards it. What sets you apart from everybody else? Why the job that you want should hire you versus everybody else who have the same education or have the similar experience. I think working on that kind of create your own kind of unique value that you can bring to the table, and really focus on that and make sure any application that you do really reiterate that and really brings it to the front. Very helpful.
Right.
Sorry about that. Thank you all so much for that. That actually kind of touches upon the next question in terms of networking. How have you utilized your network to build your career?
It's interesting because I'm still in touch with some of the people that I went through the master's program with, but I wasn't an undergrad at USC. So I think sometimes it helps to build relationships through undergrad. So it was a lot different for me, especially taking night classes and so forth. So in terms of networking, I've just networked within USC, and there's it's USC Women in Management. So I've belonged to different groups, and I've done some mentoring with master students in the past. So in a way, like then I get to meet other people who are in the same position I am. So those are the only ways that I've kind of networked. So I don't really have too much to add to that. So I'll pass it on to Allison.
Thanks, Jennifer. My first job out of grad school did not benefit from any kind of network connections. It was just literally a cold application on usajobs.gov. So that was a fluke. But then when I was ready to come back to Southern California, I reached out to some of my old professors and said, there's this cool sounding institute at USC. Do you know anyone there? And they passed around my resume, and I got an informal, meeting, interview without there having been a job posting that fit my exact thing. So sometimes you can, if you know the right people who know other people, they can create a job for you, which is definitely a blessing.
Yep.
Yeah, so I graduated in my program this past May. So I'm pretty fresh from my program, but I said I may not have a lot of money to donate back to the school, but I'd have some time. So presently I sit on the Young Advisory Committee for the Black Alumni Association, and through that mentor their young scholars. And then also through Annenberg, their Meet and Media program, doing a mentor-mentee program with them, and then also doing an ambassadorship program for the digital media program. Just speaking about my experience to potential students. So staying connected through, because my program was completely online, even though I was always on campus, because I'm not that far from it. So it was important for me to build those connections beyond the computer or the screen. And I did that through attending events. I would just, the events that came on the emails or the calendar invites, I would go to them and then just volunteer for things that sound interesting or things that I was like, oh, I wish I had, embarked in that program and I was there. Now I can volunteer in it. So that was a way that I'm definitely utilizing the network.
I think a lot of great points have been made. So I think one thing I want to talk about, as Terrell kind of mentioned, volunteering. And I think one thing that is really helpful is just always hunting for a way to create value for people. Because a lot of time mentoring, networking would be like, oh, let's just meet someone, give them a business card, or take their business card, try to email them. You meet people, try to think, how can I help this person? And that's something that that would stay with them and it would be remembered a lot better than, if you kind of create that connection, you can always expect them to be willing to help you. Maybe not always, but there's a lot more chance to get something back. So just find a way as you're going through your day, small things, bigger things, your classmates, your instructors, someone that you see at a party, all that. If you have a way, if you know something, if you can do something that a lot of people can't, do that. And then sometimes they might hire you, or sometimes they might become able to connect you to someone.
Sorry, really quick. I think that's a great point. Your classmates too. Yeah, your classmates are a great network of future alumni as well. That's a really good point.
And we have a quick question, it looks like, in the chat that actually has to do with networking. So I'll answer this real quick, or ask this to all of you. So what is the best way to network when you are outside of California? So if you're like trying to network within California, or say like just into a different state or different location, how would you recommend doing that?
I do believe there's state chapters of alumni groups as well in different states.
Yeah, that's a great way. There's football watch parties at bars everywhere across the country. Another thing is that a lot of the information interviews I've done are virtual, and sometimes people prefer that because they can squeeze it into the middle of their day. So it doesn't matter where you are.
I was just talking to a client today in San Diego, and I saw a Trojan, figure behind them. And I'm like, is that a Trojan? Are you a USC Trojan? He's like, I am. I'm like, so am I. And he's like, I actually started the San Diego alumni chapter. And I was like, look at that.
Yeah, I think also there's meetup groups, there's a whole website for meetup, and sometimes it just takes one person to connect with that connects you to a lot more people. But you need to be patient, sometimes it doesn't happen right away. You don't click with people. It's harder to make friends as you get older. But I just think going out, like sometimes I've just personally, after I was vaccinated, I would just go to my local, as the Brits say, and I, end up meeting like these amazing women, just reading and having some food at the bar, and connected with them, and, they're pretty amazing humans. So just things like that, but you have to be really patient with those kinds of things.
I think one of the maybe one of the very few benefits of COVID was that a lot of things became virtual, as they mentioned. And I think you can always reach out to people in another city, especially if you're like, hey, I'm going to USC. And especially when you're a student, people are a lot more willing to help you. So feel free to reach out. You might not get response from many people. People are busy, but nobody would hate you for messaging them and trying to talk to them. So there will be like, I can't respond to them, but that's fine. You're not burning any bridges. Reach out and you can have a Zoom call with someone. Also, it might be, if your financial situation allows, if you can line up a few meetings maybe it's worth to travel once in a while. Put some budget aside if there's an option for that, and maybe if there's like a big events going on, if there's a big USC thing going on, or if there's a, for example, there's a LA Tech Week that's like in the tech industry. It's almost a week, maybe hundreds of events. Maybe it's worth to travel to that.
Go to conferences with your mentor and other professors. Have them tag along with them to their meetings, and including the social hours before and after. That's a really great way to get to know people around the country too, in your area, in your discipline, I should say.
All right. We are reaching the end of our panel session. We'll ask one more question. We'll kind of scaffold it to fit for the time. But the last question, I also see some questions in the panel, in the Q&A too, so maybe I'll try to integrate it. But my question to you, if you can give a one-sentence answer possibly, if you were to go back in time during your university years, what advice would you give to yourself, especially making yourself stand out and getting these amazing job positions?
Undergrad or master's program? Or PhD?
As a graduate.
Graduate. Yeah.
What would I say to myself? I would say probably get a little bit more involved. Like Terrell said, Terrell, sorry if I'm butchering your name, you know, do volunteer for different things. That's probably what I would do, is get a little bit more involved in some of the activities and some of the volunteer activities. It was just tougher for me because I was working full time and going to school. So that would be my, sorry, it's not, it's, that wasn't very concise. Sorry about that.
I would say do as many short-term internships as possible in as many different types of industries as possible. Because once you get in your lane and you become more senior management, it's really difficult to jump over into a different industry. So try it out all early and pick your passion.
Trust your work. And I'm going to say it again, build your portfolio. Build it. For those who, if that's applicable to your industry, yes.
I think answering what the question was in the Q&A, I think focus on what you're the best at, what your strongest suit is. Don't focus on your weakness, focus on your strength. Try to be the best at it and learn about the adjacent things to it as well. Not just focus on one thing, but things around it. And you can kind of create a story that will put you different from everybody else, because everybody has a slightly different strengths.
I also just wanted to add, like, sometimes it's intimidating, you know, like you're at a group event or something, or you're trying to network. And one of my mentors had said, everybody is nervous. You know, just because they're in a suit and they have a really nice dress on or whatever, not every, you know, and I, you know, at that time I was working at a nonprofit before I worked at USC. And so, yeah, so that helped me, you know, and she's, you know, a lot older and wiser. And for some reason that kind of stuck with me. So I'm not as intimidated now. If, like, you know, I'm still a lot older, but, you know, I realize sometimes I am a little nervous, but I think everybody's nervous. It's not just because you're younger and they're older, they're not. So just wanted to add that. And
keep on doing it. The more you do it, the less nervous you get.
Yeah, agree.
Do it at grocery store. Talk to random people all the time. The more you do it, the easier it gets when the stakes are low.
Totally, I agree. Yeah,
That's
especially if you have
perfect
like,
ending.
you're on. You know.
That's a perfect ending to our panel. So thank you so much to our panelists. For our attendees, you're going to have to exit out of this page in order to go to the next panel. But again, thank you so much, panelists, and fight on.
Thank you. Fight on.
Right on.
Bye.